Join me as we take a deeper look into the heated moment that unfolded at New Church, when Pastor Daniel confronted Jamal Bryant in a way few expected and many are still trying to understand. This was not just a disagreement caught on camera. It was the visible peak of tension that had been quietly building for months, possibly even years. To understand what really happened, we have to look beyond the moment itself and examine the relationship, the silence, the timing, and the pressure surrounding both men. Pastor Daniel and Jamal Bryant are not obscure figures. Each carries significant influence within their own communities and beyond. Each leads congregations that are deeply invested in their leadership, their theology, and their public witness. Pastor Daniel has built his reputation as a protector of his congregation. His leadership style emphasizes discernment, order, and accountability. Supporters see him as steady, intentional, and grounded, someone who values clarity over charisma. Jamal Bryant, by contrast, has long been recognized as a bold and outspoken voice. He is known for addressing social issues head-on, often inviting controversy as the cost of visibility. To his supporters, that boldness represents courage. To his critics, it represents recklessness. For a season, these differences did not appear to divide them. There was public alignment, shared platforms, mutual proximity. Many observers viewed their connection as an example of unity across different ministry styles. Others warned it was fragile. The cracks did not begin with a single statement or sermon. They appeared slowly, quietly, and most noticeably in what was no longer being said. Leading up to the confrontation at New Church, Jamal Bryant made a series of public comments that some interpreted as divisive. While his supporters defended his intent, others particularly within Pastor Daniel's circle felt those remarks crossed a line. This was not the first time differences in perspective had surfaced, but this time the response felt different, sharper, less patient. As Pastor Daniel prepared to take the stage at New Church, the atmosphere was heavy with expectation. Those familiar with the ongoing discourse sensed something was coming, even if they didn't know exactly what. But what stood out most during and after the moment was not simply what Pastor Daniel said. It was what he didn't say. He did not defend Jamal Bryant. He did not affirm new birth. He did not reference their previous alignment or shared history. In church culture, omission is rarely accidental. That silence was noticed immediately. Church bloggers and commentary channels began dissecting the moment frame by frame. Side-by-side comparisons flooded social media, old tweets next to new captions, past praise next to present distance. The narrative shifted. This was no longer about people choosing to stay quiet. It looked like people choosing to step back. Supporters felt blindsided. Some accused Pastor Daniel and his wife of quietly rewriting history. Others felt embarrassed for having defended an alignment that now appeared abandoned. At the same time, critics felt vindicated. Concerns they had raised months earlier, concerns once dismissed, now seemed echoed through silence rather than speech. What intensified the controversy was what happened next. Followers began asking direct questions. Do you still stand with Jamal Bryant? Do you still support new birth? Those questions were not deleted. They were not addressed. They were left unanswered. In online culture, silence in response to direct questions is often interpreted as agreement or confirmation. As the pattern became clear, attention shifted from what Pastor Daniel and his wife were saying to why they were choosing this moment to say it. Because in church culture, timing is rarely accidental. And the timing raised uncomfortable questions. Was this a personal revelation? Or was it the result of mounting pressure? Insiders began hinting that conversations were happening behind the scenes. Congregation members reportedly expressed discomfort with the ongoing association, particularly as Jamal Bryant and New Birth faced renewed online criticism. Some members felt the controversies were becoming distractions from the local church's mission. Others worried about credibility, especially among older congregants and longtime donors who were already uneasy with New Birth's public image. Then there was the reality many don't like to talk about openly. Visibility and funding often move together in ministry. As blogs and commentary channels intensified their scrutiny, Pastor Daniel's ministry began receiving attention it hadn't experienced before. Not all of it was positive. Emails arrived. Messages followed. Private conversations turned direct. Do you still support this? Where do you stand? When enough people ask the same question, silence becomes harder to maintain. That pressure appeared to show up in the messaging. Pastor Daniel began emphasizing independence more strongly than ever before. He spoke about being led by God alone, not movements, not personalities, not platforms. On the surface, it sounded spiritual. To others, it sounded defensive, like someone attempting to separate one identity from another without explicitly naming the separation. His wife echoed the shift. She posted about boundaries, about protecting your household, about knowing when to disengage for the sake of peace. No names were mentioned. None were necessary. The audience had already connected the dots. What further fueled speculation was the absence of collaboration. Events people assumed they would attend together never happened. Invitations went unanswered. Public mentions stopped completely. For two ministries once seen moving in parallel, the sudden disconnect felt intentional. Then came a moment that intensified everything. In an unrelated setting, Jamal Bryant was asked about loyalty and public criticism. His response was noticeably pointed. He spoke about people benefiting from proximity and retreating when that proximity became inconvenient. No names were used, but the message felt familiar. Viewers connected it almost immediately to Pastor Daniel. That moment poured gasoline on an already burning conversation. By the time the confrontation at New Church occurred, the tension was no longer subtle. When Pastor Daniel addressed Jamal Bryant publicly, the room could feel it. This was not casual disagreement. This was a collision of convictions. As the exchange unfolded, the audience leaned in. Words were measured, but firm. Neither man backed down. Some people were visibly moved. Others sat in stunned silence. Despite the intensity, the discussion remained controlled. This wasn't chaos. It was confrontation. Then came the pivotal moment. Pastor Daniel directly questioned Jamal Bryant's motives. Not emotionally, not theatrically, directly. The response was immediate. Jamal Bryant pushed back with passion, defending his choices, his leadership, and his calling. For a brief moment, the room went quiet. Not awkward quiet, heavy quiet. This was no longer about theology alone. It was about accountability, influence, and responsibility. Two visions of ministry stood face to face. When the moment ended, nothing had been resolved publicly, but everything had changed. The confrontation left more questions than answers. What does accountability look like when influence is public? When does alignment become liability? And when does silence stop being neutral? For Pastor Daniel and Jamal Bryant, the dynamics are no longer what they once were. Their congregations will feel it. Their platforms will reflect it. And church culture is watching, not for spectacle, but for clarity. Because sometimes the most powerful statement isn't made through a microphone, it's made through silence. If you have thoughts on this confrontation, share them below. And if you want to explore more stories where faith, leadership, and influence collide, check out the next video on the channel. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.